Hey guys, continuing Iamblichus' Exhortation to Philosophy, chapter 13. I split this part into two separate videos. One about courage, another one about self-control. So it's easier to digest. Okay, Iamblichus says we can look at an ordinary person and we can look at a philosopher, and we see from the outside we see two courageous people. But the way they became courageous will determine whether one of them is virtuous, which one isn't. So a philosopher becomes courageous by understanding of truth. And courageous, Iamblichus constantly refers in this chapter to death. So philosopher is courageous before death. He supports death, he's not afraid of death, and so forth. And he achieves this by understanding of truths as part of the process. And because of this understanding of truths, he develops true virtue. Courage is a true virtue for the philosopher. And thus he supports death and is not afraid of death. An ordinary person may also support death. And it appears that they may look courageous. But this is not courage. Because they arrived at this courage out of fear. So they exchanged one fear for another. So they might support death and not be afraid of death because they are afraid of much greater evils that they may have to face. And so Iamblichus says this is courage by timidity, courage by fear, and that is not virtue. As we simply substituted one fear for another, we have not transcended fear. Philosopher has transcended fear through understanding. I really love this part. This is really nice. The next video we're going to talk about self-control. Same thing applies to self-control, and he lays it out in the same way. So that's it. Very simple. And of course, I understand this will apply to everything else in life, not just death. For example, I work a lot with couples and relationship problems as a psychologist, and we see a certain situation constantly repeating itself. A husband is cheating on his wife. He disrespects her, humiliates her, maybe even beats her. And she still remains in a relationship with him. And when I work with her, she says, I love him. But when I start to dig a little bit deeper, what we discover is huge fear of being alone. So it is not so much love as she's afraid of leaving him, because she'll be alone and she thinks and believes she will not meet another man, and she will not be loved by anyone. She will not be needed by anyone. And this is the reason why it's so huge, this fear, is typically because of things that were going on in her childhood with her parents. So, why am I saying this? This is not really love for this man, but rather fear of being alone. And so she stays in this relationship, in a destructive relationship, because she's afraid of being alone. And how does that relate to this? I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't know. At the beginning of this, I had a line of thought, and now the line walked away from me. Yeah, okay. So somebody might say that this woman is courageous. She's staying in that relationship. She's being strong. But she's only courageous, even though he's beating her, he's humiliating her, she's being strong. She's being courageous. But she's only courageous because she's horrified of leaving this man. So that's not really courage now, is it? It is very different if, let's say, there's another woman She's not horrified of leaving the man, and yet she still stays with him to help him and try and heal him psychologically, so he starts to behave normally and appreciate what he has. That is a very different, because this woman understands her options, understands what is possible, and so forth. She's acting out of clear understanding and not fear. While the first example I gave may appear courageous, but in reality she's horrified of being alone. And in therapy we very easily see this. Just a few questions, a few exercises, and we immediately see which situation the person is in. This was the line of thought I found it. Okay, let's do a quick meditation, because I think I have a client now. Or not. He disappeared. And write in the commentaries what you understand by this. If you can add more weight to it, if you can contemplate it, add more ideas to it, and more examples in real life, please write in the comments. That'd be really, really useful for me and for everyone who's watching this. That's it. Let's do a meditation. I'll take my typical mythos, what you call it, beads. Okay, thank you for your time, guys. A video might appear now. Click on it to continue watching this channel. All the best.